For today's video, I'm going to show you how to make what I call the Crossing Paths bracelet. It uses the Tila beads as well as other beads to make up this really cute design. So the first thing you're going to need, and this will be for a 7-inch bracelet, is you're going to need 33 Tila beads. These will be down the center of your piece. You're going to need 83 3mm bicones, and these are going to be along the edges and also here in the center. You're going to need a clasp of your choice. You're going to need 3 grams of a size 8 seed bead. Now those size 8s are everywhere you see the lime green. So they're going to be in between your 3mm and your size 15s. So here's my 8s. You're also going to need 3 grams of size 11 seed beads, and these are a little bit harder to see. They are right in here underneath my 3mm. You're going to need 2 grams of a size 15 seed bead. These run all on the edges, and they are here in the center. They actually make our X shapes. You're going to need 1 size 12 beading needle and 5 yards of 6-pound fire line. So to get started, you want to take and thread your needle with a comfortable length of fire line. And the first thing is I'm going to pick up a size 15 seed bead, and I'm going to make that into my stop bead. So I'm going to leave myself a long enough tail so that I can get back through it, or add my clasp rather. And then I'm just going to go back through that bead so that the thread is wrapped around it and it makes my stop bead. You're going to pick up 1 Tila bead. Now, if you look at your Tilas, they have a slightly rounded side and they have a flat side. You want to try and make sure that your rounded side, the side where you can see the indentions here, you want to make sure it's facing upward. So I'm going to go through my very first hole here of the Tila, and I'm going to let it fall all the way down. So it's going to be right at my stop bead. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come right down through the other hole in the Tila bead and pull. So that you have your first Tila added. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making the base and adding our 3mm on the top all at the same time. So you've got your first Tila. You're going to pick up 2 15s, 1 3mm, and 2 15s. You are coming out of the bottom of the second hole. So I'm going to come to the first hole and I'm going to come down through that first hole, going down towards my stop bead and pull. So that my beads lay at a diagonal over the center. Now I'm going to pick up 2 15s. I'm going to come up through the 3mm that I just added. I'm going to put my finger on it and pull. And now I'm going to pick up 2 15s and I'm going to come down through the second hole of the Tila and pull. So that when you get it, you have an X shape over the top of your Tila. Now I'm going to pick up a Tila in the first hole. I'm going to come down through the same hole of the Tila I'm currently exiting to make a circle. So that they lay side by side just like this. I'm going to come up through the first hole of the new Tila that I just added, and then down through the second hole. I'm going to pick up one Tila. I'm going to come down through the same Tila that I'm currently exiting to make a circle. Oops. There we go. So we've got 3 so far. I'm going to come up through the first hole of the new Tila, and then down through the second hole of the Tila. So that it should lay just as so. Alright. We are going to put an embellishment over every other Tila. So we have it on the first one, we don't have it on the second, and we're going to add it here on the third. So you pick up 2 15s, a 3mm, and 2 15s. Take your needle, come down through the first hole of the Tila that we're currently working with. Make sure the embellishment lays on top there. Pick up 2 15s and go up through the 3mm that you just added. Again, I'm going to put my finger on it here. Get my mess out of the way. There we go. Okay. Now, 2 15s and come down through the second hole of the Tila that I'm currently exiting. Put your finger on it and pull. So that now you have the second embellishment. I'm going to continue in the same manner, just repeating my steps. I'm going to pick up one Tila, and I'm going to come down through the same hole of the Tila I'm currently exiting to make my circle. Go up through the new hole, the first hole of the new Tila, down through the second hole of the new Tila, pick up one Tila, come down through the second hole, come up through the first hole in the new Tila, down through the second hole of the new Tila. Pick up 2 15s, 1 3mm, and 2 15s. I'm going to come back down through the first hole of the Tila I'm currently exiting. Pick up 2 15s, come up through the 3mm that I just added, and then pick up 2 15s and come down through the second hole of the Tila I'm currently exiting. so that this is what you have thus far. You want to continue these steps until you've added 33 of your Tilas. You should begin and end with an embellishment on the top. Once you have all 33 Tila beads added, this is what your piece should look like. And I'm exiting out the bottom of the second hole of the last Tila. Now we're going to be adding embellishments working back towards the beginning. So to start out, you're going to be using your 15s, 11s, and 3 millimeters. So I'm just going to get me a little pile here. I'm going to pick up a 15, 11, 3 millimeter, 11, and 15. So 15, 11, 3 millimeter, 11, and 15. And I'm going to come up through the first hole of the same Tila that I'm coming out of, so that it's going to make a little loop of beads here at the bottom of my Tila. I'm going to pick up the same thing. I'm going to pick up a 15, 11, 3 millimeter, 11, and 15. I'm going to come back down through the second hole of the same Tila, and I'm going to continue on through the 15, 11, 3 millimeter, 11, 15, and Tila. So I'm going to come down through just like this, and then I'm going to continue on through my beads. And I'm going to come right up through, and once I come up through the Tila, I'm also going to come up through the very first 15 that I added here at the top. So not going through the 11, just going through that 15. So that this is what you should have so far. You want to pick up an 11, a 3 millimeter, and a 15. And you're going to come down through the first hole of the next Tila bead. So I'm skipping the second hole and going down through the first hole. Whoop, forgot my 11. Sorry guys. See if I can pull this back out here for a minute. Okay, so you should have an 11, 3 millimeter, 11, and 15. Okay, skip the second hole, go down through the first hole. Looks better. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up a 15, an 11, a 3 millimeter, and an 11. And I'm going to come back through this first loop here, and I'm going to come up through just the 15. So I'm skipping the 11s here. Let me get to it. Okay, so go through the 15, through the Tila, through the 15 here at the top. Go ahead and pull that on through. And then continue on through the 11, the 3 millimeter, 11, 15, Tila, and 15. So 11, 3 millimeter, and 11. Through the 15, the Tila, and the 15. Pull that on through. Alright, now, right now, these are your 3 millimeters that you're adding, they're gonna look a little bit wonky, but it's okay because they'll straighten up once we go back and we add the 8s and 15s in between them. So don't worry about that because they will go back to what they're supposed to. Alright, so now it's just repetitive steps. I'm coming out of the 15, so I'm going to pick up an 11, a 3 millimeter, an 11, and a 15. I'm going to come to the next Tila here. I'm going to skip the first hole, or the second hole, and go up through the first hole. And this time I'll pick up a 15, an 11, a 3 millimeter, and an 11. Come down through the 15, my previous 15 from the loop here. Go down through it, the Tila, and the 15 right under it. Now to get into position for the next loop, go through the 11, 3 millimeter, 11, 15, Tila, and 15. So I'm going through the first loop of beads here that I had added, and then up through so that I exit the 15 on the top. Pick up an 11, 3 millimeter, 11, and 15. Go to the next Tila, skip the second hole, go down through the first hole, pick up a 15, 11, 3 millimeter, and 11. I'm going to come to my previous loop here, and I'm going to go through the 15, Tila, and 15 right above it. To get into position for the next loop, I've got to go through the beads I added here, down through the Tila, and then down through the 15. Alright, and you're going to continue the embellishments all the way to the end of the bracelet. Once you have all the embellishments done, this is what your bracelet should look like. Now, I went ahead and I come up through my 15, 11, and 3 millimeter here at the very end. As you can see, I still have my tail with my stop bead, and that's fine. Alright, you're going to be working down one side. You want to pick up one size 8 and come straight through the next 3 millimeter. Now, as you work this, don't pull tight. If you pull tight, one side's going to scrunch up and it's not going to look good. So you just want to pull enough to get the bead to pop into place. So all you're going to do this whole way down is just pick up 1/8 and go right through the next 3 millimeter. You're going to see just a little bit of space. It's completely fine. We fix that in the next go round, so don't worry. Just remember, don't pull tight, just pull enough to where it pops your bead into place. And you want to add these 8s all the way down the one side, and when you get to the end, stop, and I'll show you how to put the clasp on this side. Once you get all the way to the end, this is what it'll look like. You're ready to add your clasp when you get to one side, when you get to this end. So what I'm going to do is come down through the 8, the 15, or the 11, the 15, and the Tila, so that I'm actually coming out of the Tila bead here on the end. Now there's several ways that you can add your clasp. This is the way that I'm going to add my clasp here with this piece, but I'm going to be using an antique gold toggle so that it'll match my bracelet. So I don't actually have a wire protector in the antique gold, so I'm not going to be doing the wire protector, but you can see here what it looks like when you use the wire protector. And then on this side I used a split ring. And then on this one, my other sample, again, I come out of the Tila, and I actually made a peyote stitch tube and made that into my clasp. Did the Tila, and then on this end, I added an extra extra Tila and made the loop here on the end so that when you actually wear it, it looks just like this. So there's several different ways, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 11s. I'm going to pick up 5 11s and let those drop. I'm going to pick up the largest part of my toggle first, and I'm going to come back down through the 5th 11, going back towards the start. I'm going to pick up 4 11s, and I'm going to come back down through the same Tila that I'm coming out of to make the circle. So that once I do, here is my clasp. So I'm going to go through and reinforce this several times, and then I want to exit, once I finish, exit out of the 3mm here on this side of the bracelet. Now that I've reinforced my toggle, I'm coming out of the end 3mm here, and just as I did on this side, I'm going to pick up 1/8 and I'm going to go straight through the next 3mm all the way down. And again, I don't want to pull it tight, I just want to pull it enough so that when I pick it up and I go through the 3mm that it doesn't buckle or pull. I just want it to pop in place. So you're going to go down this whole side, adding the 8s in between the 3mm. Once you have added your beads all the way to the end, if it seems like it's a little wavy, take your fingers and just kind of do this to straighten it out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on through the 11, the 15, and the Tila. I'm going to kind of I'm going to pull my stop bead out of the way, and just as I did the other side, I'm going to pick up 5 11s, the other part of my clasp, and go down through the 5th 11, going back towards the base. Pick up 4 11s and come back through the same Tila you're coming out of to make the circle, so that it looks just as such. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinforce this several times, and when I get back to this side, I'm going to tie off these 2 threads so that way I can trim off my tail. I'm going to come through the Tila and up through my beads and exit the 15 right after the Tila. So reinforce, tie your 2 threads together, then come up through the Tila and the first 15 so here on the end. I'm exiting out of the end 15, and all you're going to be using is 15, so if you want to get you a little pile close to your workspace, the first thing I'm going to do is pick up 5 15s. I'm going to skip the 3mm and go through the size 8 seed bead. Now from this point on, you're going to pick up 3 15s, skip the 3mm, and go through the next 8. You're going to do this all the way down, picking up 3 15s, coming straight through the next size 8. 3 15s, through the next 8. And remember, like I said previously, don't pull tight, just pull enough to get those 15s to pop into place. When you've gone all the way down and you get to the end, and you went through the last 3 size 8 seed bead, you're going to pick up 5 15s, skip the 3mm, and you can either go down through the 11 and the 15 or just the 15. It's kind of up to you, because when you pull it through, you just go through the 15 and then through the Tila. You can kind of look at it and see if you think you're going to need to go through the 11 too. Sometimes it pokes the 11 out, sometimes it doesn't, so I just kind of go with the flow. So just like that, I'm going to, if you went through the 11 on this side, you'll need to go through the 11 on this side also. But once you've gone through that, pick up 5 15s, skip the 3mm and go through the first 8, and then again all the way down this side, pick up 3 15s, skip the 3mm, and go through the next 8. Now, when you lay it out, it's going to look different kind of for each bracelet that you do, depending on the color works, because here's one in more neutral brown colors, and it looks like all of my 15s lay pretty flat and don't kind of rock up. But now if you use a color very stark contrast like I did here, they kind of look wavy, and that's completely fine. It doesn't matter, because when you actually wear it, they're all going to lay flat like they should. So it's, you know, you're going to be able to tell more on some colors rather than the others. Because here with my brown, it pretty much looks like they're all laying flat too. But when you turn it to the side, you can kind of see they're just a little wavy. So don't worry if it's a little wavy, because that's exactly how it's supposed to be. But come down this whole side, adding your 15s. When you get to the end here, add your 5, and then tie off your thread with a couple of half hitch knots. So once you've tied off the thread, this is your completed bracelet. If you have trouble with the pattern through video, you can purchase the pattern at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. We'll have the pattern and kits available on Etsy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project, and we'll see you again next week.